I am what I am, moment by moment. Like everyone else. Do you believe in UFO? Probably the silliest question we can ask. UFOs, or unidentified flying objects, have been subjected to much research, so surely they exist as a phenomenon, if anything cultural, so it's absurd not to believe in them. It would be like not believing in the atom or the existence of black holes. Do they exist? They say so, and a lot of scientific experiments have taken place. And UFOs have been under scrutiny for at least the last 80 years. When there's an enigma to solve or a mystery to reveal or otherwise something unexplainable, and unexplainable only because we assume that sooner or later we can find an explanation, a billion imaginative theories are created with just as many and just as imaginative explanations. And when we can't find an explanation which is simple and logical, we look for the legendary, the mysterious, and the paranormal. But if in doubt, if we're not sure, we don't know, it would be much better to be cautious instead of shouting out incredible explanation with no scientific evidence. In the strict sense of the investigation method until proven otherwise. Also, because some of the bizarre hypotheses such as certainty of the existence of Martians or forests in Antarctica have turned out to be completely false. Now, the supporters of these affirmations insist and speak of inhabited Martian subsoil and of forests hidden in caves and with artificial sun. Unbridled fantasy, I can only acknowledge it. I believe in everyone and everything because everyone has his own motivation to talk about UFOs, even the fraudsters and the swindlers, because if nothing else, they are real artists. First, because they create a credible product and then they recite their testimonies as real actors. There are those who continue to write books with success and profit on bullshit they sort of read or overhear from other researchers, maybe a little more experienced, but always borderline in fraud, able to mix concrete facts with suppositions, uncertain and questionable testimonies, and real flights of fancy. Let's make it clear that everything is possible with philosophical speculation. Even to deny the facts with illogical, contorted thoughts worthy of a sophist. But those who assert with granitic certainty the existence of other form of intelligent life here on Earth or elsewhere seem to me like those who assert the existence of angels or elves. Everything is allowed. Everyone is free to believe in flying donkeys, but as in the example of levitation, which I will discuss later on, I would like to point out that these are purely subjective statements related to my personal experience and no absolute truth for you. Moreover, the UFO argument incorporates a lot of different phenomena which could have several explanations and also very different from photos, video, or direct testimonies.
Better therefore to divide the topic among generic UFO, flying saucers, or close encounters with aliens.
Science, every now and then, launches intriguing hypotheses that are evidently too suggestive to the most imaginative people who interpret it as semi-ignorant to support their thesis or beliefs. So, from a valid hypothesis created in the most advanced research of the microcosm, you can suggest a multitude of explanations of inexplicable phenomena. I like to formulate theories too. For example, about those UFOs that seem to zoom away in an instant, or shrink, or enlarge, or otherwise maneuver the vehicle in an impossible way. It reminds me of a cat trying to catch a shadow of a moving object. It thinks it's three-dimensional object, but it's only a two-dimensional shadow. Maybe if there were other spatial dimensions, we only see a projection of the object, or maybe only one or two of the dimensions in which it flies. Now, imagine there are beings living only in two dimensions, and think of the distortion of trajectory they would observe watching an object moving in our three dimensions. They too would see the maneuvers of these objects impossible or inexplicable. But this is precisely a speculation, a hypothesis to be demonstrated and verified, an intellectual satisfaction for those who formulated it. As for other phenomena such as lights, luminous spheres, monstrous beings, etc., if we do not know how to give them a scientific explanation, it is because they occur very rarely anywhere and without warning.
How can a scientific investigation be initiated on this basis?
Then there's the affirmation that science itself declares. The more it discovers, the more we realize how much it's unknown, or how much of our planet have not been explored, such as marine abyss and some boreal forests, or a large part of Antarctica. Who can deny that in our atmosphere, at the highest part, there are still unknown forms of life that show up from time to time, curious or aggressive towards those who disturbs them in their habitat. Again, science, in this case biological science, has discovered bacteria and microscopic animals that thrives in environments previously considered impossible for life. So we certainly know that we don't know, or in any case, that the scientific truths are constantly updated, discussed, and in some cases completely reformed, as is the study of the evolution of hominids, rewritten in the last few years. Then there are hypotheses that involve the limited human perception in front of strange phenomena or never experienced phenomena, and the consequent testimonies. There could be forms of intelligent life whose atoms vibrate at a different frequency from ours and therefore invisible or visible at times and only in certain circumstances. There could be other spatial dimensions or temporal or of other nature not intercepted by our known 3 or 4, if we put time, dimensions.
And the universe conceived as it is respect to our limited perception could be of all high nature, shape and size.
If I told you that when I was 20 years old I levitated, would you believe it? If somebody told me that, I would not believe it. Or at least, if he's a good friend, I would give him the benefit of the doubt. I am firmly convinced I levitated, but who knows what really happened to me. I am neither a doctor, nor an anthropologist, nor an expert in esotericism, so I have no say in the matter, other than the faded memory of the experience that I've had. So it also happens to those who look up to the sky and maybe see things that are strange to them, but for a scientist, they are recognizable in a logical known explanation. In addition, there are the dreamlike testimonies of close encounters of the third or fourth kind that are ascribable exclusively to my experience of levitation. There it is, an act of faith towards the protagonist's testimonies, and part of these phenomena are ascribable to the problem of psychiatric nature more than the pseudo-scientific investigations. I don't talk about the so-called conspiracy theorists because they start from indemonstrable suggestion to build wisely
a mass of hypothetical and fanciful complexities that support each other. That is, if you dispute only one, the whole house of cards falls. But I'm old enough to know that the news on these subjects are orchestrated wisely by various governments in either domestic or foreign politics. Is it just by chance that in this period of resumption of the exploration of the moon or Mars, the topic of UFO has become popular again? Or after the divisive period of the Trump era, is it better now in the USA to maneuver the population towards an imaginary enemy and then to direct them against China or Russia? After all, power has always played on the insecurity of citizens to justify its presence and its policy. In short, on this issue, it's necessary to consider the myriad of aspects of our human soul, always fearful of the unexplained and always far more fascinated by imaginative and improbable solutions, by conspirators on superhuman abilities than scientific research carried out describing a more logical and simple explanation. But remember, the real aliens on Earth, it's ourselves.